Hello, Internet. Welcome to tonight's show. Tonight, we'll discuss the 2010 NFL Draft, why some guys might be moving around in the NFL, and we'll tell you why Omar Minaya sucks as general manager.
Sucks.
This is John, and I'm Mike.
Let's get started. Mike, the 2010 NFL Draft, just looking at the list of players going in, there's just too much talent.
There's a lot. It's really hard to determine because there's a lot of teams that could fill a lot of different voids with so many good players in the draft.
Yeah.
I mean, like just the top 5 picks, it's a toss-up. You know, there's not one guy a team could take that a team is like set on.
Last year's draft it was pretty obvious. I mean, with Sanchez just soaring up to number 5, just because the potential teams from 10 and under or over that could have took him. That's why he went at number 5 and just traded up.
Don't forget Matt Stafford. The Lions pretty much say, for the draft, it's kind of annoying when a team pretty much has the player signed. It almost defeats why you watch the beginning of the draft, because it's nice when you don't know who's going to go number 1.
It's always a good guess. That's what
This year is going to be one of those years where it's like, I think the team's literally, when the Rams are on the clock, I feel like they're going to take however all 10 minutes they need to get the pick.
Nicodemus, Nebraska, Russell Kung, the top defensive tackle versus the top offensive tackle.
Jimmy
Eric
Clausen.
Berry, who's by far the best safety. The Rams just need all this help, so it's like, who can guess what's going to happen?
Well, luckily, we're here to tell you who we think is going to go in the top 10 tonight. And of course, we just do the top 10 because we don't want to spend the draft's in April. We can't spend the whole hour going over the draft. So we'll give you our top picks. Trust me. We'll get into the draft big time when it rolls around. But for now, it's safe to assume what the teams need at this point. The season's pretty much set. The Super Bowl's coming up. Trust me, we'll give you our Super Bowl picks.
Super Bowl picks will be on our next show. We'll talk about more around the NFL news. That will be tonight, but in our next segment, we'll talk about that.
This guy, the next show. The next show's next week. Super Bowl will be done.
Whatever.
This guy.
Anyway, all right. We're going to talk about our top 10 picks. Me and Mike sat down, looked at the best players in this draft. We chose who we literally thought was going to go the first 10 of this year's draft. Like Mike said before, it's, with the past couple of years, with all the players, you know who's going first. You're probably going to know who's going second, and you're probably even going to know who's going to go third. But with these 3 teams, the Rams, the Lions, and the Buccaneers, needing so much help, I think we're all left to, be guessing. I mean, I'm pretty sure it's going to be safe to say Nicodemus out of Nebraska is going to be in the top 3.
Yes.
And it could be, depending on the combine, Eric Berry in there too. And of course, you may see Jimmy Clausen, Russell Kung, Sam Bradford, Joe Hayden. I mean, these guys are just Gerald McCoy. I mean, it really depends.
And just as fast as guys could leave up in the draft in top 5, just based, not because they're bad players, but just based off of team needs and what they draft, you might see guys fall later to the first round.
Of course. I mean, don't you remember, I believe, 2008 or 2007 draft, when the Giants drafted Mario Manningham. Mario Manningham was a first-round projected pick.
It was an attitude problem.
Exactly.
Little things like that.
But you know what? And look at what happened last year. He didn't develop perfectly, but he showed why he could have been that first-round potential.
To get him a 3rd-round pick, it's a steal of the draft.
It was a steal of the draft that year. And, you look back last year, and everyone said the same thing between Percy Harvin and Mario Manningham, and the Vikings made a great pick with Percy Harvin. You can't argue what they did with him and how he performed this year with the Rookie of the Year award. Great pick. Congratulations to the Vikings. Even though I still hate you, Brett Favre, but you did a great job leading that young team and bringing out a great receiver. But anyway, we're not worried about talking about what the teams did this year. That's our next segment.
That's later.
And let's get into the draft, Mike.
Okay.
Let's talk about your top 10. Well, let's do your top 5 first. Let's talk about your top 5.
All right. So the top 5. But the first pick, the Rams. It's obvious. Based off of the head coach being Steve Spagnuolo, defensive-minded coach, they're going to go Sue, like we talked about, from Nebraska. it makes sense. Now, I understand the Rams do need a quarterback, and they may very well take Jimmy Clausen on #1 overall, but I don't think Steve Spagnuolo is ready to develop an offense with a young quarterback like that. I think you need to bring in a veteran quarterback if Mark Bolger's not going to be okay to go.
I think the Rams. I think you're right. He's just by far the best product. He's NFL ready. Guy is explosive.
When you're compared to Reggie White, you got something going for you.
Exactly. You know that this guy's the real deal, and you know Michael Crabtree was the real deal after not playing for all those weeks, coming in and
being better than Darius Hayward-Page, being drafted above him.
Of course, and I mean Al Davis is another story for another day. But with guys like that, you know these guys can come in and change your team. You're right about Nick Damasio. With #1, however, I'm going with the quarterback. I'm saying Jimmy Clausen. They need a leader, and that's what they miss a lot. I like what they did last year in the second round. James Laurinaitis, middle linebacker, is going to change that defense. He's going to be a great NFL linebacker. I kind of was disappointed that he went so early because I was kind of hoping the Giants would snag him.
Yeah.
But you know what? I do root for Spags in St. Louis. They have their defensive leader. Sue's not going to be it. Clausen's going to be the new offensive leader, and that's who's going to lead their team.
Fair enough. I agree with you. I think the Rams very well could take Jimmy Clausen.
I'm not even a fan of Clausen. I wasn't a fan of Notre Dame at all.
There's no quarterback that really jumps out at me. I mean, Sam Bradford would, but one, he was in a set system in Oklahoma. He was very well protected and had a great team around him.
Isn't that what you want? You want an offensive line to protect someone.
Yeah.
And that's that person you want to protect. Yes. Look at Peyton Manning. He's protected by a great offensive line.
Exactly. Which leads to why I think I'll throw a curveball for the Lions pick and say Russell Okung gets up to #2 because the Lions. I feel the Lions, while they probably, well, if Sue goes first, they'll end up taking Gerald McCoy second overall because they do need a pass rusher. But I feel the Lions have enough good linebackers on the team with Julian Peterson and Larry Foote and Ernie Sims that if they play a 3-4 defense, that the strength of their linebacking core will make up for the pass rush they don't have. And of course, there's also free agency. They got to get somebody, but they need Okung because you need a franchise offensive lineman who can protect your franchise quarterback, Matt Stafford. And Okung is the top O-lineman on the board. I think the Lions need to take him because that's a big need. The guy they have now is terrible, and you can't force Matt Stafford as a young quarterback to throw the ball 50 times a game like he pretty much was.
Mike, the Lions' offense, there's no line. There's not even an offensive line. They took what's his name? Matt Stafford. Yeah, they took Matt Stafford. Then they took Brandon Pettigrew, who, could turn into a great pick overall. But I thought last year when Michael Orr was right there, and they just let him walk, I thought that was an immediate mistake. They could have had, and you saw the year he had with the Ravens, and what a great story he had growing up.
You get a movie made about you when you're
in
the league less than you fucking see.
It makes the Pro Bowl, nonetheless.
Well, the Pro Bowl is a joke this year, but that's
the Pro Bowl to a lot of people is a joke. But you know what? There's so many stupid rules the NFL has to do. Yeah. Anyhow, great player he was. Glad he made it to a team that took care of him.
Yeah.
Anyhow, I like your pick. I understand what you're saying, but like I said about Sue, Nick Suh is that playmaker.
If he is available, the Lions need to take him because he's the best athlete in the draft.
He is the best athlete in the draft. They do need that nose tackle for the 3-4 they're going to run. Granted, I don't even know if Larry Foote might stay there next year after all the troubles he went through, going from the Pittsburgh Steelers, a winning team,
to the
and now
16 Lions.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, why would you want to stay there? And you've heard numerous times Ernie Sims being talked about in trades. Yeah, who knows if he might be there? There's a lot of people who might not even want to be a part of Detroit anymore. So I got to go with Nick Damasio.
It's a broken team.
It is. It's a broken team. Nick Damasio is my pick, #2. Can't go wrong.
All right. So on to